Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and get started. Tonight, we're really pleased to be able to do this college recruitment seminar for our members, our families. This is specifically for our boys tonight. There will be another session for our girls coming up, but this one's specifically for boys. With me on this call tonight is Ronnie Woodard. She is, and I'm going to tell you about Ronnie here in a minute. Ronnie, as you may know her, is our Director of Member Services. She's also our college recruiting coordinator. You're all on the boys' side. You may not know of Ronnie's very strong background in the game, both as a player and as a coach, and she's had many successes in both. Ronnie played collegiately at Duke University. She's been coaching soccer for about 20 years in college, and now has been coaching in club soccer, for the last 5 or 6 years with us. Ronnie was head women's coach at Vanderbilt University in the SEC. Had a great 10 years there. She's very successful in her club. She won a national championship with her older girls, one of her older girls teams. She was the national coach of the year, both with United Soccer Coaches and with US Youth Soccer. So we're really delighted to have Ronnie give us some of her knowledge on this call tonight as well. She's the current coach of the U18 ECNL girls team. She's also the technical director for Region 3 ODP, which covers 12 states in the southeast. Ronnie's over that entire program as technical director. She's also the current head coach for the 2007 national team ODP 07s. She's a national team scout, and she's also a broadcaster for women's soccer in the college games. As you can see, Ronnie's got a vast experience in the game, great knowledge of college and how the ins and outs of college works. So a lot of the information for boys and girls is if not similar, if not the same. So Ronnie's going to be sharing a lot of her knowledge. She'll be able to answer a lot of your questions about the college process as well. I'm Sandy Pollock. I think most of you might know me. Some of the newer families may not. I've been in this area for a long time. I'm currently the older boys DOC. I'm on the Region 3 ODP staff, have been for about 10 years. I've been a Tennessee State ODP coach for about 20 years. I was an instructor for coaching licenses in Tennessee for many years. Just had to give that up recently because of my workload at the club. But got a lot of experience, obviously, in the boys' game. Coached girls for a little while, but mainly my experiences was in the boys' side of the game. So Ronnie and I are both looking forward very much to presenting to you this information. We really want this to be interactive as well. So if anyone has questions as we go along, please either ask them or you can send them into the chat room. But feel free to ask a question as we go along. Really important we cover all the information that we can. Okay, so the first slide I want to show you is this slide of kind of where we send a lot of our players, or from our club. We have a proud history of helping players move on from our club and programs, and we find a home at some of the best colleges in the country. As you can see, the majority are on the east side of the country to the Midwest, but we do send a few to the West Coast. Obviously people in this part of the country want to stay, as you can see, at least in the east side, but we go all the way to
That's loud, yes.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Can someone mute, whoever's speaking, mute your microphone, please? If everyone can please mute your microphones. Thank you. Okay, so talking along those lines of history of player placement and collegiate programs.
Barely. No, there's got to be a speaker, Charlie, because that's coming through here.
I don't know.
Again, everyone, please try to mute your computers. We're listening to a family conversation right now. Okay, thank you. So nearly 300 players have gone on to achieve success at the collegiate level after their club career with us. And here the breakdown with 68 Division 1 programs, 12 in Division 2 programs, 17 Division 3 programs, and 9 in the NCAA program. And we'll talk a little bit more about those divisions as we go forward. But I want to highlight these four individuals and for a specific reason. So we've got, and this is important that our families and our players understand what I'm about to say here, because these four made choices based on different outlooks of what they were looking for from the game. And I'll start with Johnny Hickman. So Johnny, I've coached all of these boys at some point in their career. They're now all either in college, or actually they've all graduated now, but they're recent graduates from college. So here we've got Johnny Hickman, who went to Clemson University, Division I school, one of the top programs in America, right? So Johnny chose to go there knowing that he might not play, at least his freshman and sophomore years, but he wanted to be part of that big program, and he wanted to be part of a successful Division I program, even though he might not play. So that's a decision that players have. That's one of the decisions that players have to make when they start out in this journey. Do I want to play immediately, or do I want to just be part of a program where I may not play a lot, but I want to be part of that team? So that's Johnny's story. Drew Jackson, on the other hand, actually played on the same team and club as Johnny Hickman did. Drew decided he wanted to play all 4 years. He wanted to go and play immediately as a freshman. So he chose to go to Division II school, Lee University, which is in between Chattanooga and Knoxville, and had a fantastic 4-year career there. Played most minutes starting right away as a freshman. That's the decision he wanted to do. He wanted to go to a school, and it was a successful Division II program, by the way, but he wanted to play for 4 years. Will Emerson is a very interesting story. Will ended up playing at Yale. However, Will was recruited by Stanford University. They, the head coach at Stanford is a good friend of mine, and he'd been asking me about Will, and ended up sending his assistant out to watch one of our camps, one of our January camps. Flew out from California specifically to look at Will. Decided they liked him, and he was all set to go for Yale. So for 10 months, he was walking around wearing a Yale hat, and that was where he was going. I think it was about March or maybe April of his senior year, he got a phone call from Stanford saying that things had changed and he was no longer going to be able to go to that school. If you can imagine how devastating that was for him and the family, hearing that at that late of a date. The good news was that when someone gets recruited to Stanford and then they don't get in, that word spreads pretty quick. So my phone rang off the hook from colleges all over America, wanting to know, can we get a hold of Will? Can we, reach out to him? What do you think about him? So he had many, many offers after that. He ended up going to Yale, which is an Ivy League school. Will's a real bright kid, and ended up having a good career there. So that's Will's story. So where you think you're going may not be where you end up going, and that's for various reasons, and we'll talk about that later as well. The fourth player in this is Tyler Delgado. Tyler also played for me, the goalkeeper. Tyler wanted to stay close to home. His older brother, had played at Trevecca, and Tyler's family decided, you know what, we want to stay local. So that was Tyler's choice, and he was able to go to Trevecca University and had a good career there as well. So I wanted to highlight different reasons why players choose, the school that they do. And,
Wyatt.
okay, so I just want to make sure all the players are thinking about that when they're making a choice for school. Okay, again, if anyone has a question they want to ask, please open up your mic and feel free. We want to make this as interactive as we can. So let's talk a little bit about the divisions. Okay, NCAA divisions are separated by philosophy and size. And here's one thing I want to tell everybody on this call. If you're determined to play college soccer, they are likely as a place for you. I can assure you. Okay, there are so many programs out there. It doesn't mean you're going to get money or a scholarship, but if you want to play in college, you can do it somewhere. You just got to try to find the right fit for you and make sure you're realistic about your goals. So with Division I programs, there's 205 of them, and they each have a maximum of 9.9 athletic scholarships. and that can be divvied up amongst their entire group. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean 9.9 players or 9 players get a scholarship. It means that's the total number that can be divvied up. For Division 2 teams, they've got 212 programs, and they have a maximum of 9 athletic scholarships each. Division 3 has 408 programs. That's a lot of schools, and they don't offer any athletic scholarships.
So Sandy,
yes.
Question. So when should a player register with the NCAA Eligibility Center?
That's coming up here in a bit. If you'll just bear with me for a minute. I think Ronnie might actually be covering that part, but if you'll just bear with me, John, unless Ronnie, you want to jump in and talk about that right now?
No, it's okay.
No, it's easy. I would say anytime. You can register with the Eligibility Center at any point. And all you have to do is link that in through your guidance counselor to make sure that you get your transcripts and any test scores that are linked up. But I would say that you could really do it. I think if you're going to get in your freshman year, it's a little early, but sophomore, junior year, I would definitely start to get that taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate that. So 408 Division 3 programs. And I'll tell you what, some of the academically, some of the Division 3 programs are so high in academics. They're fantastic programs for a lot of our kids, because we live in an area where we've got a lot of bright players in our club. They go to not only the private schools, but our public schools are very good, and so we do put a lot of players in Ivy League schools and also in really high performing Division 3 schools. I've personally had players that played for me that have gone to Yale, to Harvard, to Cornell, to Brown, Williams College up in Massachusetts, and many others. So the opportunity for, and by the way, the other way to look at that is this: if you can't always get into an Ivy League school just because you're bright, sometimes you have to be bright and a good athlete. And a story I've shared before, I'll share it now while I'm thinking about it, is years ago I had a goalkeeper that played for me that we were at the Disney Showcase down in Florida, and the Harvard coach just happened to be at the game, the head coach, and the team was very, very good. The goalkeeper at that point didn't have a whole lot to do in the game, but I guess the coach must have made the assumption, good team, must be a great goalkeeper, offered him a place at Harvard. On the other hand, and he was a bright kid, but on the other hand, my next door neighbor at the time, when I lived in Franklin, he was a valedictorian at the BGA. He wasn't an athlete at all, but he was an extremely bright kid. And his hobby was going around the country for debate programs. He was top 10 debater in America. And his only goal in life was to go to Harvard. He didn't get in because there's thousands just like him all across America. But if you're really bright and you play soccer or another sport, now you can get into these Ivy League schools where otherwise you might not. So just one more thing to think about. It's a good thing and another pathway into those Ivy League schools or those top Division 3.
Chasing you.
Okay, then the other divisions that we talk about are the NEIA. They've got 198 programs, and they've got a lot of scholarships. They hand out 12. Locally for us, there's one down, I can't remember what city it's in, down by the border. It's called Martin Methodist University. And they give 50% scholarships to their JV team. They've got a JV team as well as a varsity team. So we had a young man from our club go and get a 50% scholarship to play on the JV team about 2 years ago. So again, those are colleges that'll help you with your money just for playing a JV team as well. So a lot of opportunities. Then the Division 1 junior colleges has 146 programs, and Division 2 has 81, with 18 maximum scholarships for the Division 1s, and Division 2 they don't offer them. So as you can see, with all those divisions out there, there are all kinds of opportunities for our players if they want to play soccer in college, can do it. I can assure you of it. Okay. Some terms that we'd like to know so you understand what they mean. So a prospective student athlete is a student who has started classes for the 9th grade, just so that you're aware of that term, because it might come up in your conversations. An unofficial visit is any visit by you and your parents to a college campus paid for by you or your parents. This is something that you do on your own. The only expense you may receive from the college is complimentary admissions to a home game. They might give you that. It's complimentary. You may make as many unofficial visits as you like, and you may take those visits at any time. The only time you cannot talk with a coach during an unofficial visit is during a dead period. And we'll talk about dead periods here shortly. I think Ronnie's going to cover that. Student athletes can take an unlimited amount of official visits, okay? Coaches and athletic departments cannot participate in these unofficial visits until September 1 of the student athlete's junior year in high school. Okay, that should be unofficial visits, right, Ronnie? The unlimited amount?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's a mistake. It should say unlimited amount of unofficial visits.
Yeah, you're only allowed 5 official visits.
Okay, here's the official visits. Official visit is any visit to a college campus by you or your parents paid for by the college.
Yeah, do you need anything?
The college may pay all or some of the
I'm
following.
trying to listen to the.
Your transportation to and from the college, room and meals while you're visiting the college, and reasonable entertainment expenses, including 3 complimentary admissions to a home athletics contest. Student athletes can start taking official visits on the first day of classes of their senior year. So make sure you're making a note of that. NCAA.
That's changed, Sandy. That's changed.
Has?
That has changed from last year. So now, and we'll brush up on that later. You can now start to take visits in your junior year if you're in a Division I school. So we're going to touch on that a little bit later, but that has been recently updated.
Okay, and so there's 5 official visits for D1 schools and unlimited official visits for D2, D3, and NAIA schools. National Letter of Intent or Letter of Commitment. The National Letter of Intent is a document used to indicate a student athlete's commitment to participating in the NCAA colleges and universities in the United States. And then the Eligibility Center, which Ronnie touched on a little while ago, certifies whether prospective college athletes are eligible to play sports at NCAA Division I or II institutions. It does this by reviewing the student athlete's academic record, SAT or ACT scores, and amateur status to ensure conformity with the NCAA rules. So let me tell you a little bit about that from an experience I had. I had a young player that played for me a few years ago that was an extremely good player, got an opportunity to turn professional at U17, and he went over to, actually I sent him to Scotland for a trial with Glasgow Rangers, and after that he went on trial to AEK Athens in Greece and actually got picked up over there. So he played soccer as a 17-year-old in Greece for about a year, got injured, I think it was a bad knee injury he had, decided to come home and go to Clemson and tried to play soccer. And when they looked at his amateur status, he did not meet the rules. And because he had signed a professional contract and had actually played for a year over in Greece. So he went to Clemson University on an architectural degree and was unable to play. And that was a crying shame because he was such a good player, but didn't meet those rules. So this eligibility center is kind of important, and it makes sure that you conform and meet all the rules and standards. So how do I start my recruiting process? Okay, hopefully all or most of you have been taking advantage of the Sports Recruits program that we were able to give to you for free as a member of our club. This is something our club pays for. But if you have not logged into that yet or not taken a look at that yet, it's a great resource for helping you in all of these areas that we're going to talk about now. So it helps you actually pare down the schools, what schools that might be a good fit for you, which part of the country they're in, who the coaches are, how to email them. All that information is in there. That way you don't have to search for it yourself. So please, everyone, make sure if you didn't go on last night and participate in the seminar last night that I sent the information out for, make sure you start paying attention to sports recruits and utilizing that free program to help you with this process. So, areas to focus as you begin your search. Academics. Very, very important that you find a school that meets your academic requirements. What do you want to study? What does this school offer academically? That's probably the number one thing that everyone needs to be aware of. Soccer opportunities. Again, am I going to play there immediately? I'm going to, I'll be okay with not playing for the first couple of years, maybe. Am I okay, willing to compete with other players for my position? Is playing time important to me? All those questions you have to ask, when you're thinking about the school you're going to go to. The other thing that's kind of important is making sure that you go to a school that you like the school regardless of the soccer program. I've had players in my past, I've sent multiple players to colleges over the past number of years, and I've seen a lot of things happen, from the coach that recruited the player getting fired. Now that player, and the new coach comes in, by the way, and doesn't like the player, tells the player immediately, you're not in my plans, I don't see you in the future in this team. Now that player, if he didn't like the school, he's stuck there. And I've seen that happen more than once. So make sure when you get recruited to a school, or if you choose a school, that regardless of the soccer, that's the school you want to be at. Very, very important. Another thing you want to think about is the size of the school in the community. Some people want to be part of a big school that's got a big football program, big basketball program, and that they want to be a part of that as well. Other people would like it to be a small, maybe private school, maybe 2,000-3,000. That's what fits their personality. So make sure you're thinking about all those things as well. The location, the proximity to home. Do you want to be, local? Do you want to be in the state of Tennessee? Do you want to be in the Northeast? Do you want to be in the Southwest? Which part of the country makes sense to you? So you can pare all this stuff down again in soccer recruits. And then, of course, a major factor is the cost of attendance. That's always going to be something for families to look at, because scholarships, very few, if any, people ever get a full scholarship. Even if you're a national team, it's very difficult to get a full scholarship. Yeah. So something to be aware of. So those items there are kind of areas if you begin your search.
If you can be kind and not say snarky things.
Example for a recruiting timeline. This is the kind of things you want to start.
What do you mean?
Someone's got your mic on. There we go. Okay, so in your freshman year, you need to start strong academically. That's what you want to be thinking about. Starting strong academically, and that's when your core GPA begins. Make sure you're thinking about that. The sophomore year, that's when you're making a list of 20 to 30 schools of interest. Begin making unofficial visits to schools. You contact each coach of the school of your interest. But per the NCAA bylaw, coaches cannot contact you until September 1st of your junior year. Make sure you're attending the ID camps. And we can help you with that information as well. The type of camps to go to, the type of showcases to attend. You'll do the showcases obviously with your team.
Please mute your phones if you haven't muted them, please.
Thank you. Your junior year, I can't even tell who this is, by the way, but I wish I could. Okay, junior year, reevaluate and narrow your list of schools to 15 to 20. Continue to make unofficial visits. Meet with coaching staff. Attend matches in the fall. Schedule your SAT and your ACT test. And make sure you're registered for the eligibility center. Senior year, narrow that list down again, even more, 5 to 10. Take both unofficial and official visits. Retake the SAT, ACT, and then you start.
Let's leave. No, just leave.
Aluminum is a group.
Here's a this is an important one as well for you boys that are unsure of what you should be even emailing to a coach. This is the kind of information, this is an example of an email that you sent to a college coach. Okay, how you present yourself when reaching out to any college coach is very important. So you can use this template as a guide for your initial outreach. Okay, and I'm not going to go through it. I won't read it, but I'll give you a minute here to read it yourselves. But this is exactly what you should be sending out. Okay, then example follow-up email to college coaches. And by the way, I'll send this presentation out when this is over with, just so you know. But here's a follow-up email that you would send.
Sandy, can I touch on this for a second, both
Yep.
of them?
Yep.
So can you go back to the initial email? I think it's important that when you're looking at this to personalize this a bit. And you talk about why. So that opening paragraph, expand on why you're interested in their school. It goes an awful long way with college coaches if they think that you have a genuine interest in their program. I think that's important. I also think that it's important to keep it short and concise. College coaches get 1 million of these a day. If you can personalize it in some way, shape, or form, for example, hey, that was a great win over Carnegie Mellon this weekend. What a great production from your boys on the weekend. Or my uncle went to the University of Memphis and I'm interested in going to school there too. Those are little ways that you can expand on why, that you can catch their attention and make them feel as if you have a genuine interest in their program. And it's important that when you're doing this, you pay attention to details. Please don't say, hi, Coach Smith, when you're actually sending it to Coach Johnson. It is really important. The quickest thing that will get that put into a trash bin is to have the wrong coach and the incorrect school together. Coaches will assume that it was just a mass letter, and they'll just ignore it. So it's really important. It's okay to mail merge this and make it a little bit more simple and then just expand on one paragraph on why, but you need to make sure you get the details right with who the current coach is and make sure the coach and the school match. Any questions on some of these intro emails? So the recommendation is to send this email possibly a week out from your first game. So if this is Friday, April 6th, I would recommend sending this information no later than the Tuesday before this. Because what happens is they start to compile their list and create their schedule for both they and their assistant coaches to attend the matches. And if you don't get on that schedule ahead of time, you could miss that recruiting opportunity. The next thing that I would, sorry, and I didn't realize my video wasn't on. The next thing that I would say is that you make sure that your schedule's correct. If you have your game times and your location, make sure you add that on to this too. The next thing is there any, well, let's stop here. Are there any questions about the intro email to the college coaches? Okay, and then another thing that's important, make sure you get the correct jersey number. If you're a goalkeeper and you play the second half of the game usually, or you play the first half, whichever it is, and there's a rhythm to it, I'd make sure to include that too, because if you get on a coach's schedule and they're scheduled to come watch you during the first half of your 12 p.m. game and you don't go in until halftime, you might miss your window. So the more information that they can have to create their spreadsheet so that they can cover all the players that they have to cover at an event, the better off they're going to be. So the next thing, Sandy, if you go to the next one. So the follow-up email to coaches, this is just a way to see if they'll give you any feedback from the event. Find out if they really were impressed with you, to make sure that they genuinely know that you have an interest in the school. And then the last part is to let them know that you are aware that they attended your game. And if they attended your game, if they did not notice you and you don't receive a response, you might need to kick up your recruiting efforts with them in order to be seen on their next round. Any questions?
Hey, Sue, I was curious, at what time point do you know which colleges will be present at particular tournaments so you could try to target your letters?
Well, I'd love to say that they have a constant updated list that's accurate. but I just literally was on a website today and I clicked on the college coaches attending, and they were listed, many Division I schools that were listed at this particular event that's going to happen in December. And as we're all aware, it's a dead period and no Division I schools can attend that event. So either they are planning on watching it remotely or they just repopulated a list from last year. My best advice is to send emails to your target audience. So once you've gone through the exercise that Sandy put a few slides ago, which relates back to the location, the academics, the role you want to play on a team, et cetera, and you formulate your list, I would send that email to that list on a consistent basis. Then what I would do is I would follow up right before I send those emails on that Tuesday and just see if there's any additional schools that may have RSVP'd to that event that you might have an interest in.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, we're ready to move on, Ronnie?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, this is the TSC player profile example that we have. We encourage all players pursuing a college soccer career to use this template to create your personal TSC player profile. Again, this is very helpful, for the college coaches as well. The more information you can give to them, obviously, the better it is. So this is another just example of what that would look like, including references at the bottom.
Yeah, and that's important to touch on. The references are important. Make sure you have an up-to-date email address and phone number, because college coaches are going to reach out to your coach. There's absolutely no getting around it. They are going to call your coach. They're going to get an evaluation on your character, your work rate, and your ability to impact a game in the positions that they're looking at. But make no doubt about it, they definitely want players that are going to be a major impact in their program on the field, but are also going to be productive off the field. No one wants to chase a player to class, and no one wants to worry about someone's behavior when they're not with you. So they are going to get in touch with your references. The other thing I would say here is keep this very simple. They don't need to know any of your accomplishments prior to your 9th grade of high school, because what you did in 6th grade when you were on the regional team is probably not very relevant to what they're going to see when you're 18 and 19 years old and entering college. So you want to make sure that you keep this updated from 9th grade on, because that's when your development and the important part of your accomplishments are going to come in for the coach.
Okay, let's move ahead. All right, Ronnie, this is where you take over.
Oh, I love this part. Okay. How many do we have on the call? All 112 of you. Put your ears on right now. This is very important stuff right here. These are exact quotes and conversations and tweets that we have had time and time again with college coaches. Your social media matters. No one wants someone in their program that they can't trust. And it's really important that you know that. They want a respectful gentleman, man that's going to work hard on the field and is going to be respectful off the field. So retweeting some of the things that are getting retweeted these days, or liking things on Instagram, or sharing questionable Snapchats, those are all big no-nos, because at any given point, these coaches can see that. And it could be a mistake by you and you may want to get it back, but it matters. So what I want to get across to you is every single time you're on social media, imagine that lasting with you for the rest of your life. The rest of your life, they'll be able to track that. So whatever you put up on social media, you need to be very proud of what you've put up there. And you need to stand by it, and it needs to represent you as a strong young man. And it doesn't need to be something that your mom and dad would be embarrassed that they saw or disappointed in if they saw. Being cool is making the right decisions. Being cool is not following other people. Being cool is making a hard decision, getting to bed on time because you have a game the next day. It is all important things. And I just want to make sure that you guys understand this, that there are assistant coaches in each of these programs at all of these universities whose sole job is to stalk your social media. And they will watch you and they will drop you. I can promise you that will happen. A prime example, and this is not social media related, but this is actually on the field. I had a conversation with a coach one time when I was on a panel, and he said that there was a player that had begging to watch him play over and over again. Please come watch me play. So coach went off site to this location where this player was playing, put his chair in the corner and sat down. Well, he watched the mannerisms of how this young man conducted himself during the game. And he was negative towards his teammates. He was overly aggressive in the way that he was giving constructive criticism to his teammates. He was basically not a team player, and the coach substituted him and took him off the field. And the kid walked right past the coach, ignoring the coach, went right to his bag and picked up his phone on the sideline in the middle of a game. Well, the college coach saw that, picked up their chair, packed it up, got in their car, and said no thank you, because they don't want that type of personality in their program, because it can ruin an atmosphere. It could ruin a climate within a program. And coaches want strong young men that are going to make their program stronger, and they're going to help them win games, but they're also going to win games in life. And that's really important to them too, because that's something that coaches want for their players, is to be productive on the soccer fields, to get a great education, and to be strong young men when they graduate. And so if I can say this once, I can say it 1,000 times. It is exactly what that topic says. Social media matters. So I'm not sure if anyone wants to have a comment about that, but I'm happy to chat social media anytime that you'd like. But remember, whatever you post is a representation of who you are. And that's really important for you guys to understand. And be strong enough to make hard decisions, because they matter.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Next one, sorry. There you go.
Yep. All right, so here's the recruiting rules that have changed, and we'll talk about this a little bit right now, and stop me if you have any questions. So as a high school freshman and sophomore, really there's very little things, and this is a Division I type of environment, and this is almost for all of them. You can't have any on-campus, off-campus contact at all when you're this age. Now, NAIA has a whole different set of rules, and the academies, like the Naval Academy and the Army, have a different set of rules. They have a little bit more laxed environment where they can have contact earlier than Division I schools can. So you can receive general camp brochures. You can receive also a questionnaire. So if you are a sophomore in high school and you email a coach and tell them that you're going to be playing, the only thing you'll get in response is possibly an invitation to a camp, and then a please will you fill out this questionnaire for us. We are not legally allowed to be in touch with you right now, but please fill this questionnaire out. Now, people always say, I know that I've emailed them. I know that I've sent them document with all of my pertinent information. Do I need to fill out this questionnaire? My opinion is yes. And the reason being is that when you do that, you get the opportunity to go directly into their database. And a lot of these programs now link directly into their recruiting database, and that's how they track you. So do them a favor and make their life easy, and go ahead and fill out those questionnaires. Now, you don't need to fill out the questionnaires every single time, because there's a good chance that you might get the same response if you go to 3 events and you send 3 sets of emails and you're still a sophomore and you're not allowed to receive any information yet from colleges. You could get the same questionnaire over and over again. If it's complete and doesn't need to be updated, you don't have to respond. Now, you can see here, if you go down, you can take unlimited unofficial visits as long as they're scheduled without the assistance of the coaching staff. This is all new. Okay, so you cannot technically visit with a coach on campus until after you've completed your sophomore year of high school. Now, prior to this rule being passed about a year ago, maybe less than a year, you were allowed to meet with coaches on your unofficial visits. But what they've tried to do is slow down the recruiting process. And so in an effort to do that, They've moved that until September 1st, their junior year. However, they can start to have conversations with you as of June 15th of your junior year. So Sandy, if you can go to the next slide. Here's where the light of recruiting opens up for you. Basically, it's fair game from this point on now. So you can have a lot of information that comes to you. You can have conversations. You can have phone calls. You can have all of this information that comes to you. Now, these dates again have been changed. They're June 15th after your sophomore year. So June 15th of your junior year, which is that summer before, you can now start to have correspondence with coaches. You can't go on campus and visit until September 1st of that year. Official and unofficial can start to happen at that point. These have been changed. So keep that in mind as we go forward. June 15th is when the light of day of your junior year opens up, and all recruiting is hands-on at that point. Sandy, you can go to the next one. Really, there's no difference between junior and senior year. You can take unofficial visits, you can take official visits. There's a maximum of 5 that you're allowed to take in Division I schools. However, you can have unlimited to Division II, III, and NAIA schools. You can also participate in tryouts and evaluations at Division II schools and Division III schools when you're on campus. You cannot do that at Division I school. So the bottom line with all of these slides is that in your freshman and sophomore year, you're gathering information, you're using sports recruits, you're doing your research, you're making sure that you're paying attention to all the very important parts of your game that need to be improved. You are building your resume, and you are corresponding with coaches and making sure that you put your best foot forward when they come watch you play. Come junior year, June 15th of your junior year, prior to, that is, not after, prior to your junior year, you can now begin to have contact with coaches, which is personalized conversations, whether it's text, email, or phone calls, and you can start visiting campuses in your junior and senior year of school. Questions? We will make sure that some of these slides are omitted before we send this to you so that you know what those rules are. Okay, Sandy, you can keep going.
Okay.
So another thing to keep in mind is that Division II, Division III, NAIA, and Division I sometimes get governed differently. And so you'll have different rules. So right now we're in a recruiting dead period for Division I, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But Division II and Division III do not have a dead period right now. They're able to go out and recruit and have players on campus and host visits and have camps and do all sorts of different types of recruiting opportunities. And Division I is dead, which means they have zero contact with anyone. Division III is really been what we've seen institutionally controlled. Some institutions are saying, listen, we don't want our coaches even on the road recruiting because this is a university standard. It has nothing to do with Division III. It has everything to do with institutional control and their ability to maintain a healthy environment for their athletes and their employees. And so they have been running a little bit differently according to each school. But Division I is completely shut down right now, which means that they're in a dead period. And is everyone aware of that? That has been basically going on since March. What they've done is every month, about the middle of the month, the NCAA was meeting and they were putting in a dead period, which meant that you cannot have any conversations. You can have conversations via email, but you can't have any contact, and you can't visit campus, and coaches can't go off campus to recruit. That's what that dead period means. Now, it continued to get extended, and now the new date is January 1st. So you're in a Division I dead period until January. But Division II and Division III schools and NAI schools are
I'm here
not,
for the junior Preds, Max Bjorkman, 08.
and they can come watch you play.
08, Bjorkman, BJ.
So Sandy, can you take that forward?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. This is not anything that we really need to touch on now, but we will have this as part of your slides that you'll have available. These are just some basic questions that you can ask on a visit. Make, different types of things, talking about your athletic program and the coach. What's team travel like? What's the fact? How do you do academics and athletics together? What's it look like with tutoring? What are my opportunities there? How does your team travel? How many athletes do you recruit every year? What role will I play on your team? What's your practice schedule look like? These are questions you can ask coaches, assistant coaches, and players when you're on your visit or when you're on your phone calls. And it's important to make sure that you just add onto this list. If you're a biomedical engineer major, you need to make sure you have a good conversation with your coach, making sure that your lab schedule is going to coordinate or be acceptable if you have to come to practice late or have an altered training schedule because of your academic rigors. Those are really big, important questions to talk to coaches about. The balance in the work-play environment. We can keep going. Here's your Division I NCAA dead period. And this is basically what we just referenced a minute ago. This is now gone through January 1st for all Division I schools. So those of you that are playing in events right now, or if you have an upcoming event, a college showcase, the only way you can watch those games is live streamed. So you can have Division II, Division III, and NAIA coaches on your sidelines. But your hope is that either the club is going to be taping them and providing those for you, or the tournament will be live streaming those and allow coaches to come in and watch that. Now, I've spoken to several tournaments, and the plan for a lot of the tournaments that I've talked to is live streaming their games. And I've talked to college coaches, and their plan is to sit at their computer and their TV and probably watch games for 12 to 15 hours a day during these training times. And while they're in a dead period, because it's their only opportunity to see these people play. And they haven't seen, imagine that, if you're a Division I coach and you haven't seen someone play from March until January of the following year, that's an awful long time. So they're very interested in looking at video right now. They have a lot of time on their hands too, to be able to look at video, and they're relying on looking at video. So we really encourage the opportunity for all of you to do that and make sure that you have a video that's available. And if you're playing in your season right now, which all of you are, I'd highly recommend, if you have a family member on the team that can videotape the game, ask them to do that. Even if as a parent, you have an iPhone, you can get up there and you can tape bits and pieces of your child playing. It's gonna help. You can put in a 3-minute clip if you're following them with a steady hand on your iPhone. Any little bit can help, since they don't have the opportunity to be recruited by a Division I school right now. Questions on that?
Quick question on that.
Question.
So, if we need access to those live streams and videos, do we have to approach, or will that be available on the website? How do we know that we are live streaming it?
I think, well, the tournament that you're attending will make it very apparent that they're live streaming it. It will probably be all across the tournament website. Now, we at TSC are not live streaming anything, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the ability. And Sandy, I'm not going to speak for you or any of your teams, but I would highly encourage your coach to try to coordinate an opportunity to get a game taped of your boys at some point during this fall.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank
For
you so
those
much.
teams that are going to the Rally Showcase, I heard today that they're actually for free going to record at least 2 of the games
There
for
you
every team that goes there, which is, and they'll do that for the team. So for those teams going there, and a lot of our older boys teams are going to that showcase because it's one of the biggest in the country for colleges. So that'll be helpful.
Yes, that's going to be great.
I have a question regarding highlight tapes.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that sports recruits and the like offer some kind of service where they'll edit and put together a fancy highlight reel for the student. Is that something that's recommended, or can the kids put together their own highlight reel? What's your take on that?
You want me to do it, Sandy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have 2 opinions on it. One, if you feel like you want to invest the money in a professionally done highlight video, then have at it. It is very simple, and they will circle the player and make sure that they have the proper amount of time before and after the play in order to get it done. What I will say is it's not 100% necessary. If you're going to get 2 games, so here's some food for thought for you. If you're going to get 2 games that are entire games from Raleigh, there's no reason why you couldn't provide an entire match to a game to a coach and have an opportunity for him to watch throughout the entire match or half of that game. The longer the better for them right now. And it used to say the shorter the better was my opinion before, when they could see you live. But now they want to see you in bigger hunks of time that you're playing. And so it's important that you can represent your son the best that you can. If it means that you are going to cut and splice it yourself, piece of cake, you can do it. You can take that Raleigh video that they're going to provide each player, you can upload it into one of your MacBook programs, put into iMovie, and you can cut it yourself, and you can send a highlight video to them. You don't have to spend the money on it. Now, if you don't have an interest in it or a comfort level in it, or you would just really prefer for someone else to do it, then by all means, you can hire that service and they can take care of it for you. But you are capable of doing it yourself if you want to.
Also in Sports Recruits, you can upload your own video to your profile in Sports Recruits. It's all free. So it's just it's like uploading a picture. You upload your own video and put it under your own profile, and college coaches will be able to see that when you send that out to them.
So Ronnie, on videos, so for a goalkeeper, how much do coaches want to see of the play before the goalkeeper is interacted with, and then, after, versus the whole game?
I think that's pretty vital. And the other thing that I would say for a goalkeeper is I wouldn't hesitate to videotape their warm-up. I think that shows their range with their feet when they're knocking balls out. I think it shows their shot-stopping ability, their ability to claim across, some of their athletic tendencies that might not shine in the game that day, or they may not be called upon to perform throughout the whole weekend. So I would say that a goalkeeper is a different situation. I also would say that it's not a bad idea to clip a goalkeeper training, doing a training video of a goalkeeper. Make sure that it's relevant and that they're under enough pressure and that they see a lot of different areas of the game. You can talk to Evie and you can talk to Lou about that, and they can happily give you some ideas of what drills to do, or even go out there and do it with you and provide the opportunity for you to just put your phone out there or videotape it. But to answer your question on the other part, I would definitely recommend the build-up and the distribution as part of it for a goalkeeper.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Have we done this slide, Ronnie?
Yes. Yes, we did that one.
Okay. Okay.
Again, we just talked through all of this. These are different. This is just some information that how this affects you. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. There's been a trickle-down effect, and I'm sure you've read about it or you've heard about it, and it's really affecting Division I women's soccer. The NCAA has awarded an additional year of eligibility for their seniors from this year. So what's happened with that is that with that additional year of eligibility, that's impacted their recruiting, because now their seniors are staying for an additional year, a 5th or sometimes a 6th year that they're getting per NCAA's new rules. So you have to be diligent when you're going through your research of all of this. And you need to make sure that you're paying attention to details and you're asking those questions about how this would impact the recruiting of your class and the scholarships of your class. So do keep that in mind when you're going through, that there's a trickle-down effect. Not only is there a trickle-down effect in the senior staying, but I don't know of one program across the country that is involved in men's or women's soccer specifically that hasn't had a budget cut or a furlough of some sort, or some sort of restrictions that are coming across that are cost-saving measures. With the loss of a lot of BCS football revenue to a lot of different programs, it's greatly impacted them. And so soccer isn't in danger of being cut, but what it is it is being cut back temporarily in order to be able to sustain the athletic department and keep it going. So make sure you're really candid and ask good conversations from those coaches when you're going through this process. because it is, and I hate to use the word because I've seen it a million times, unprecedented times. Everyone's navigating, and the coaches are saying, yep, we're doing the best that we can with a landscape that keeps changing. It seems like daily. So these are just, again, we don't need to focus on these. We can leave these on there. We've talked about all of them. We talked about unofficial visits. We talked about official visits. We talked about speaking with your club coach. This is important, and I want to make sure that you hear this part too. I highly recommend having a conversation with your current club coach. And here's why. Your current club coach spends an awful lot of time with you, and they know your skill level, and they know the value of what you are as a player. And they're going to be honest with you about what level fits you best. If you are a player that probably is best suited at a Division II school and you have your sights set on Stanford, you might have to readjust your evaluation of where you think you can play. And a candid conversation with your coach is going to be very helpful for that. 1. 2, the reason I think this is really important is because if you spend all your time chasing schools that are not reciprocating in their interest of you, you are missing valuable time where you can be talking to a school that fits your needs, and you might miss opportunities. So it's important. The most important thing from this entire presentation is utilize sports recruits. It is not a free service, but Tennessee Soccer Club pays for it for you. So it's a free service to you. And the opportunity for you to house all of this information and use it as a research platform. What I find it's the most helpful with is the ability to do research. You can put parameters in there with the location, whether it's academics, whether it's a division, et cetera, and it can populate a list of schools, and you can follow links to be able to do research on those particular schools. That's invaluable right now. And from then, you answer all the questions that you have on location, how I want to play, where do I want to play, is it a plane flight or is it a drive? Which one is it when you're making these decisions? And one of the deciding factors in there is also having a conversation with mom and dad. Is a scholarship a deciding factor for my education? If it is, you need to make sure that whatever schools you're going after are going to be interested in you and you feel like you can play there and make an impact, because soccer scholarships that are full rides are very, very few these days. But the ability to mix and match college scholarships with academics, or the opportunity to take a very large financial aid package or a grant package, are all there and all great opportunities and ways for you to be able to participate in college sports. But you have to make sure that you have candid conversations with your coach and your parents as you're populating that list.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
He was talking earlier about the boy that went to Brentwood Academy and was able to go to Harvard due to his soccer and his grades. And then you were mentioning that talk to your coach to see what division that he would be best in. And maybe it's not practical for him to want to get that scholarship to Yale or whatever. If he has a really good academic record and maybe like a medium, maybe not top-notch soccer or whatever, but would that help his opportunity to go to Yale?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Right now we've got 2 current players in our players that did play in our club who are currently at Yale University, and both are playing soccer. One went to MBA, I think was the school, and Jack Arnold went to BGA. So one went to BGA, one went to MBA, and they're both at Yale currently as we speak. And as I said earlier on, academically, I'm sure they're really bright kids, but that alone may not have got them into Yale. So being a soccer player as well can help. And that's not just for Ivy Leagues. I'm talking about high academic Division III schools as well.
Mm-hmm.
That can get you in there. Washington University in St. Louis, for example, is Division III. And the coach was telling me a few years ago, I've sent a couple of players there. But the coach was telling me the average ACT score of the soccer team is 33. You know, so that's how bright some of these kids are that go there. So there's a lot of opportunities for bright kids that want to play soccer and get into a really good school. So yes, to answer your question.
Yeah, and I would add on to that. So I think it's also important to keep in mind that your list is all encompassing, right? So you're going to have your dream school at the top of the list. If all the stars aligned and if they loved me, I would go to this school. This is where I really want to go. It's Duke University, right? This is it. I want to go to Duke. But then I've got a list of teams all the way in between that, yeah, I would really like to play there. I would be happy there in here. And we call these your mid-range schools, and we call these the schools that are the realistic options. And then at the very bottom is your fallback school. So if you're in the state of Tennessee and your fallback, your dream school is, let's say it's Louisville is your dream school of where you want to go play. But your fallback school is Memphis because it's in-state and it's affordable and you know the coach really likes you and you can participate there. Now you can play with that range of schools all the way in here. And I recommend dancing with all of them, talking to all of them, researching all of them, getting them to come see you play. And what happens is that list goes from big and it gets smaller and smaller until you get to the tip of the pyramid and you have the perfect school for you. But you have to be open-minded. We had a young lady that wanted to go Ivy League, Ivy League, Ivy League. And I said, well, what about the University of Chicago? I said, it's a Division III school. It is a great soccer program. It's in a cool city. These were all check marks for her. And I said, and it's a top 5 academic institution at that time nationally. She looked at it, had never even thought about it. It says Division III. Went up there. We've now sent 2 players on the women's side, the University of Chicago. Both of them have played in 2 Final Fours and have had great careers while they're at the University of Chicago. And neither of them would have thought about it if we hadn't broadened their scope to include different types of school. And so I would say that I would really encourage thinking outside of the box on a lot of different things. And a Division III education is fantastic. The balance between academics and athletics is solid. And so it's equally as good of soccer as you'll find at the Ivy League schools in most circumstances.
Quick question on that. A quick question. So if, let's say, we have about a list of 10 schools or 15 schools, Ivy League and a spread, will that be advisable to take this to the coach on this discussion and add on to the list? How would you recommend doing that?
Yeah, so what year is your son?
My son's a sophomore.
A sophomore, perfect. I would make that list at least double that size. I would take that list to 20 at least. I would even consider taking it higher. And then I would have a conversation with the coach. I would make sure that when you go into the coach that you tell them what your preference is for the education standard, the location, and all of the things that are school related. And then add the soccer onto it and then build that list together.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any other questions about anything?
Yes, a quick question. Over the last year, I've been contacted by, I guess, a couple third-party services that claim they create a bio and they have their own service where they reach out to coaches, but there's a fee for that. And it seems I'm very skeptical of that. And I'm not very familiar with sport recruiters. Is that very similar service or?
It's a little bit different. So I would tend to agree with you to be very wary because what they do, these programs and these companies, and this is from the side of when I was a college coach, they would mass produce player profiles and send them to us either in our email or in a hard copy. And they didn't genuinely look and see what player might fit our standard that were there. A good example is when I was coaching at Vanderbilt, they would send profiles of players because the players said they were interested in Vanderbilt and they wanted to make sure they had a big school on that list from the company's side. And they would literally send me someone with a 2.5 GPA. That was not even admissible to the university. So my recommendation is with sports recruits, the way that that's different is it's not populating and sending emails on your behalf. They're just giving you a platform of research and information. It's more of a data location. It provides information to you, allows you to stay organized through an inbox and an email address, allows you to upload video. It does educational series, but it does not tell you what schools match your personality and where you can play. What it does do is give you parameters that you can build your own list. And that's why I like sports recruits, because it gives you the freedom and the flexibility to research what's important to your family and to your player. And then you actively pursue those coaches through your email system, which can go through their platform if you'd like, so that you can track all of it. But that's the main difference. To be honest, I mean, youth soccer and youth sports is already going to cost enough money with travel and participation and uniform years. I wouldn't pay someone to do a profile if we were going to send you something that you can copy and paste and just update on your own. I would save them.
Thank you.
I would like to just add one thing as well to this conversation. So it's really important that the players, work hard at this sort of stuff. I've seen it over and over again where players, they just sit back and wait, thinking some college is going to call them and offer them a scholarship somewhere. And they just wait and wait and wait, and they get into their senior year and they've done very little to nothing. And now all of a sudden the phone's not ringing, and now they're scrambling trying to find somewhere to play. So it's really important that the players, with the help of the families, put some time into this. And as we've talked about for the last hour, is nailing down the schools, emailing the coaches, and doing that legwork in order to get a wide net of potential places. So it does take a lot of work, no question about it. You just got to be prepared to do it if you want to play in college. So I've seen it both ways.
Yeah, being proactive is key. And just having candid conversations with your child in the house is really important too. Just being realistic about what the family's desires are for the education, in addition to what the desires are of the player. And then in addition to the financial situation of what is feasible for the family and what's in the family plan. So it's really important to have those candid conversations. And again, like Sandy just said, cast a wide net. You'll eventually get to the top of the pyramid, but it's going to take a little bit of work. But it's amazing because the amount of time that we spend on these things can also be spent looking at schools and trying to figure out what interests you, and looking at the U.S. News and World Report for the academic institution and the regionally ranked institutions. And you can find anything that you could possibly be interested in, whether it's NCAA rankings for college programs. As far as the soccer rankings, you can find Division 1, 2, 3 rankings, NAIA rankings. You can find anything about a school. You can talk about majors, master's programs, just about anything you want on this device. Instead of Snapchatting, I'd recommend doing that.
Sandy, one thing I would add is, and very often it doesn't get talked about in these calls, but it's important for the players and the parents to recruit the coach as much as the coaches are recruiting the player, because you could very well go to your dream school and play for a nightmare coach.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's all, I agree. And that's all built through the get to know you process and asking hard questions and having conversations. And make no doubt about it, coaches are going to be different in the recruiting process than when you show up on game day. There's no doubt. They will be different. But the key is to do enough homework to make sure that the personalities match.
Also be prepared the coaches come and go all the time as well, by the way. Coaches, they get promoted or they find a better school to go to, and they come and go all the time. That's why I was saying earlier on, make sure you're going to go to a school where you want to be at that school, regardless of who the coach is. So it's, because like I say, it's very transient, that occupation. So.
Very much so.
I'm in the middle of a Zoom call.
Okay.
Sorry. Bye.
So we'll actually put this on the Ronnie, this is out on the web right now, this presentation, isn't it, or not? If it's
We have to upload it into the virtual center, but we'll upload it onto the college information tab. But it won't be up in probably till tomorrow. Jeff will take care of that and get it up. But we will clean up this presentation and make sure that you have access to that to make sure that a couple of those slides have been removed.
So if there's no more questions, I greatly appreciate everyone's participation tonight. Hopefully it's been beneficial to you. And any questions that you have, please direct them my way or to Ronnie. Anything that comes up after this. But we enjoy doing this. We think it's important that we can help our players, you know, in this process, because I know it's very confusing understanding the rules, knowing when, where, and why you do stuff. So again, we appreciate your participation, and if there's nothing else, we'll close it down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks, everybody.